Hi, welcome to the Divine Insight Show. Thank you so much for joining us whenever and wherever you're doing so. It's no accident that you're here. Joining me today is a friend of mine, Derek Jameson, who is an incredible healer and does soul coaching as well as specializing in QHHT, past life regression. So welcome to the show, Derek.
Thank you. I'm excited.
So excited to be here. And for those of you who followed the show, who know my work, then you know that I do a lot of past life work as well that come up when I work with clients when there's something going on in their life that is sort of holding them back, and maybe they're not conscious of why that's happening in their lives. So they come to someone like me, and also Derek will talk more about his specific work because I was fascinated in learning more about it when we met. And so we're going to talk about all things past life today. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's start with, how did you get involved sort of, in this consciousness in your body? How did you start recognizing that this was part of your journey? Like, when did that happen?
It first happened when I was young. So junior high is where I started being drawn. There was a little shopping center, and there was a metaphysical store, and then next to that was the baseball cards and pogs shop. And instead of it was cool to go to the pog shop, but before you get there you have the metaphysical store, so I would always go in there.
You'd have to pass by it.
But of course I took a sharp right into that. And I had gotten things like my first pendulum. Although I had fear around all that stuff, I still was very drawn to it. So when I was in junior high, I was really drawn to a lot of this stuff. And around that time and into high school, I was really drawn to ancient Egyptian stuff, so on and so forth. So that kind of unfolded things. But what got me involved with more like spiritual work with people was I was just asked to do a Halloween event and read tarot cards. And someone taught me how to do it. And I just happened to be really intuitive with it. And that literally opened the door to where we are.
Did you grow up in San Jose? Is that right?
Yes, San Jose.
That's where that crystal shop was?
Yeah, it's in Campbell, San Jose, near Santa Cruz. You would go over the hills and Santa Cruz would be there. It was a subset area of San Jose that was right before the hills and the mountains.
So this tarot deck, was it the classic tarot? Because in the past a couple of shows ago, I talked with a guest who was describing the difference between a classical tarot deck and an oracle deck, and what the differences are and how to connect with them. And so was that, what kind of deck did you first get in tune with?
They basically taught us on the Rider-Waite deck that you see, the standard gold.
Or the classic.
The classic, yeah. And basically he just explained that. He's like, I'm just going to teach you how to do it, and then you kind of just go with what you feel. And I was like, okay, but I wanted more money, so I was trying to get that extra night gig for a Halloween event, and it was at a theme park in Northern California. So I would do it, ended up being really good at it, not really knowing too much about it, but it would just be the standard deck. Now I actually don't do tarot card readings. I prefer oracle decks for very specific reasons, but it's good to have known the difference. And I did have a negative experience with tarot at the time. So, and that's what kind of shut me off from spiritual connections, because that Halloween event, I would read one person after another, after another, after another. But what happened was I took on all of their energies. So I would have nightmares after nightmare, and they would all bleed into each other. And I was like, okay, if this is spirituality and this is doing readings, I can't do this. This is I'm just getting haunted. And for days, it would just keep cycling through. So I really shut it off for quite some time. And when I got back into it, I did oracle deck.
Yeah, and I think you had also mentioned before the show that you had been teased growing up for other kinds of reasons, but yet having someone who's a kid seeing things that aren't there and talking to spirits, we don't necessarily want a whole nother reason to tease us when we're growing up. Was that another reason why you kind of felt?
Well, that was a big reason, because even the friends that I had, that, when you're that young, not all of them are really your friends. They can be making fun of you too. But to let people know that I was involved with, that I was interested in that, because there were other things I was interested in and I was made fun of. So even by friends, they would tell other people. So if they're going to tell other people about really silly things like Power Rangers and in junior high, then they're going to tell people about all this stuff. So I just kept it a secret. And then I had a lot of fear around all of that. So the combination of all of that stuff really made me shut it up. However, I kept that pendulum the entire time, and I still have it because I knew something, I had to keep it. And I just kept it in a place where it would be safe and I would never see it.
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of people who are getting involved in sort of the conscious healing world, or wanting to develop their own intuition, they have a similar experience where often many of us are empathic, which means we can understand and often take on other people's emotions or experiences as if they are our own. And even myself doing healing work, feeling other people's stuff and not necessarily having, one, the discernment between what's mine is mine and what's theirs is theirs, but also the capacity and knowledge of how to separate myself from the things that I was taking on for others. And I think, you know, a lot of us, as we're trying to do that more ourselves, that's something that we want to really pay attention to, because we want to have an authentic experience, and we want to learn and grow for all the lessons that we decided we wanted to learn when we got in.
Yeah.
And so what led you as an adult to say, oh, this is what I want to do? I mean, aside from the fun part, because that's obviously a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And I think, though, frankly, that you need to follow your joy, obviously, in everything that you do, because that's what makes you abundant and happy and healthy. So having it be fun is obviously the bonus and incredibly important when we decide what we want to do. But my point is, what was it that you knew about this, like, in particular, the QHHT practice that you do? What led you down the path of doing more past life work?
Well, when I got into high school, it's almost like I was never given a choice not to do the work. Throughout my life, I've always had to bring forward the information that I'm supposed to be doing, the purpose that I'm here for. So when I was 15 years old, the reason why I could break through kind of like that fear of being made fun of and all that stuff was I got involved with music. So I started writing songs, playing the piano and singing. And that was like a mode of being able to do what I need to do and how I'm working with people. It was because if I look back at all the songs I've written and you look at all the words, it was all for what I'm doing now in this way, but it was done like secretly, almost like he won't know that he's actually still doing it when I was young. And then that's how I got into realizing that when I was made fun of, I was really skinny. Like you could fit like your hand around my upper arm like this. Like it was bad. And I didn't feel like I was in the right body. So I went and studied personal training, and I started working out, and I go, oh my gosh, wait, this was always in me. Like I just have the idea of it, and then I made it happen. I was like, this means any idea that is within other people, and this is what I figured out when I was a teenager, I was like, any idea that someone has within them only has to be realized. It has to be materialized and put into action. So I became a personal trainer. So now I was doing it through music, but then I was also teaching the same thing through personal training, the physical. Right. So sacred sound, now we're going with the physical body, right?
Right, yeah.
As I go along, and now I'm back in, now I'm at this point, I'm back in Los Angeles, I'm back in California, living down here. And I wanted to focus on like developing like, oh, I want to help people. I want to help infuse people with that. But I was still playing music. So I wrote a song for a friend of mine and a well-known DJ. And I was going to Dallas, Texas to play the piano and for my friend who was going to sing the song that we had written. And we went to a museum right after, the Dallas Contemporary Art Museum, or some museum that's down there. And I was really drawn to the ancient Greek section over there in the corner. And the girl who was like, the lady who was the manager of what we were doing, she goes, did you want to go over there? And I said, I don't think, like, I think I should just, no, it's fine. I've been to Greece. I'm good. She goes, no, I think we're supposed to go over there. And I was like, okay. So we go over there, and all of a sudden I'm looking at this, and I love gold. So like I was looking in the case, and all of a sudden my chest tightened up and my breathing got really, really heavy. So I was just like, and I turned to my friend and I said, something's going on. I'm like, I can't, my chest is really tight. I'm breathing heavy. I was like, is this ancient stuff just like taxing my breathing? And she says in this moment, she goes, this weird stuff has always happened to you. And in the moment of her saying that, I was like, it was like, everything was like remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this, all this, all this, all this. And then all of a sudden it was like, boom, I was out there playing music, and that was going to be the key to unlocking what my real purpose is next to be, integrated in. And so I came back and I said, I think I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do card readings again, and I'm supposed to do this work, but I can't do it like I did before. I don't want to be haunted, or don't want dark entities coming at me. And I said, I need to do it from a space of love. And I said, I'm ready. That was the key.
Right.
Owning it and saying, and I didn't know that until it happened. I said, I am ready to do it again with a space of love, and I will do it when I know what that means. And the minute I asked, everything unfolded, and I was put in places where all the answers of questions I had were said to out loud, and I wasn't even asking a question. I was put in the right places at the right time because I told all of my higher guidance I was ready.
That's such an important thing for people to recognize in your own life, is that when you set the stage for what you want from a place of integrity, particularly, when it comes to like your spiritual integrity, saying I'm ready for whatever it is that spirit, my own higher self, my own divine design would have for me, when we say that out loud, and then are open to what that looks like, it's like, yeah, the questions you didn't even know you had, you're getting answers to because you're following the breadcrumbs.
Yes.
And that's so important, particularly with people who are trying to create what they want and not figuring out why that's not working for them. It's because often we're not focusing on what it is that we truly desire. And as you said, you just said, I'm ready, right? That demonstrates willingness to be open to something.
Yeah.
And recognizing when you're ready and saying it out loud is so powerful. So I just want to, reinforce that for people. And then, and what can you share? What does QHHT stand for?
Quantum healing hypnosis technique.
Okay.
So it's a deeper state that allows people, or a deeper state that you go into to access that kind of information. And I didn't know anything. I honestly didn't know anything about it. I just knew that I was guided to do past life regression. So it's not like I found that and was just like, oh, I'm just going to do that. No, it was like
with me and Reiki, where I was like, oh, I think I want to take this class. It sounds fun.
Yeah.
You knew what you were going to do.
Well, I've always been connected. I'm like, when I would see ancient Egyptian things, I would get emotional about it. Like I would literally be like, and I could just feel it. So any movies that would come out or anything, I just had a connection to it. And this just goes to show you, like, it's like you're born in the right place at the right time. San Jose has one of the only Egyptian museums. San Jose has an Egyptian museum. Not only that, but the Fry's Electronics is also ancient Egyptian, and it's near my house. So near my house, I had two things that I could go to frequently that I felt comfortable and at home at.
Oh, wow.
Not knowing what that fully meant, I just know. So it was like I was already in tune with all that stuff. So my first past life meditation allowed ancient Egyptian images to come forward, and I was shown that I was an oracle for ancient royals in one of my Egyptian incarnations.
Okay.
So that's how that came forward. And and then all of a sudden it was like, guess what, Derek? This is what you're supposed to do. Like, you had connections to it, but now it's the time. And anything I would watch, if I'd pull a card, the first card out of the new deck would be past life. Everything told me to do it. And I said, okay, I'm listening. I get it. I'm doing it. And now it's all unfolding and I see why. But yeah.
So the regression part, so for folks that don't know, there's a difference between the way that Derek's work approaches past life healing and the work that I do. As an intuitive healer, I will, in fact, perceive the past life experience that is holding someone back from whatever it is they're trying to create in their life, and retrieve a soul part that might be, missing, and help guide people's bodies to integrate that experience. And from what Derek's sharing, it's a hypnosis technique where actually he's leading, as I understand it.
And just facilitating.
Yeah. So if we were to do it, he would facilitate my own regression where I would perceive the experiences. Is that right?
Yes. It is a very deep state, so you're not looking at like an hour or an hour and a half session or so. It is something that does take a chunk of time. It can take 5 hours, but I've also had an 8-hour day with somebody. And it really depends on the person. Now, it does take you to the deepest state of trance, which is theta. So you're in a theta brainwave state, right? You know, that space right when you wake up, that space right before you fall asleep that you get little weird visions in.
Little juicy
Yeah, the juicy space you get in that slow brainwave state without falling asleep. So what I do is I keep people in the state of their theta brainwave state to access the information that needs to come forward. Now, along with that, to give a little bit of a deeper understanding, a lot of that is the law of attraction, meaning whatever signal you're sending out for this particular time in your life, that frequency is matching another life or multiple lives that you have lived, will live, are living. And whatever's the most important information for you is what is going to be shown to you. And it is always right. It is always spot on. It is always incredible how it works. But it's really you tuning into the higher self. So you don't get a choice of what you want to go see. You're shown exactly what you need at this particular time in your life. And that is really determined by the higher self and the oversoul, the higher guidance that you have. They will show you what you need to see. And more often than not, most sessions, it is a very virtual reality experience. So you're going through to learn other lives that reflect what you're going through now, but there's always a lesson and a purpose that you learn within that. So there's always a lesson and a purpose, and then we kind of break off from that life as well. They're also able to access answers to questions that you've ever wanted to know. I allow people to come with a list of questions because they're in such a deep state that all the questions can come forward.
That's beautiful. So is this something that's required to do in person, or can you also do distance work?
Just in person, because somebody is in such a deep state of trance that, and a lot of different things happen. For different people, different things happen. Sometimes the process is brought in. It's not always you're just seeing a past life. You might be getting an activation, a light healing, a vibrational healing. You might be receiving, let's say you have, I've had this multiple times. Somebody died in someone's life and they never healed that experience. Well, in the past life regression, it has been shown that that spirit, the father, the mother, the grandmother, will take that open space to allow that healing and connection to be in it. So it's not always a past life or a future life. It is sometimes a process that is brought through. So if someone's going through a process and you're not physically there with them, that can be dangerous. You're not really what if something goes wrong with the internet, or you just can't do it. You have to kind of be in the same space, and then that way those people feel really safe as well. They have to feel trust and safe in order to access any of that information.
Right. So what would somebody be experiencing in their life where they might be drawn to do this kind of healing work?
It ranges. It could be anything from relationship drama, or they want a new job and they feel like they're not fulfilling their purpose. Some people come in with, let's say, sexual trauma. So let's say someone comes in with sexual trauma and they don't understand why they can't be intimate with their partner, and why they can't fully release that, and why they don't want them to touch them. They might not understand that it actually stems from another lifetime that they have lived. So when that information, let's say that's the biggest thing, that's the information they're going to receive. It's going to show them what kind of went on in another life from a higher perspective, so that they can clear and understand why they have that in this one. Because you're right, just like the work you do, it is not necessarily something that's from this life. It can be an attachment that is still from another life that needs to be cut. And in this process, if that's what it's called for, it can be cut.
And so people could really benefit from identifying the types of things that are holding them back in whatever way they might feel like they need that work. Now, is this something that people, there are QHHT providers and a network of folks like all over the country, or are they mostly in LA?
No, there's actually, I think there's more spread out than there are around the world. So Dolores Cannon created this method over many years. She's an author of countless books from the information that's come forward about the universe or past lives and what goes on out there. And she created this method over a span of time. So now there are trainings that you can do. So if you wanted to be a QHHT practitioner, you can be able to go and learn at the seminars that they do around the world. So they can put it on a cruise ship, or it can be in other parts of the world.
Is there any prerequisites to participating in? Like, do you need to have any sort of background?
No, the method actually sets it up for you clearly.
So it's a specific process. So anybody, if they're interested in it, could go and take a class on it and learn to do it themselves.
Yes. Right? And sometimes people, they want to do it, but I found that some of the other like programs that they offer are for people that need more tools or skills to really build that process. Now, I found from the very first session I did, it was probably one of the most wildest sessions that I was like, this is how we're starting. Like, okay, we're starting with a full out like war, and the body was remembering, like you could see it on the body, could remember what had happened. And it would fade, and I was like, okay, this is where we're going with this. And then everyone after that was just mind-blowing, because you sit there with your first one and you're like, well, am I even going to be good at this? And it does take a technique, so you can't just sit there. I could never be talking to you like this and trying to lull you into a deep meditative state. You really have to kind of hone your skill for emoting and getting someone into that, and it really takes trust. So if someone is sitting with you and they don't trust you and they don't believe it, it's going to be a harder process.
Right.
So the more someone can really have trust with you is when you're going to settle into that space. So everybody's at a different level skill set and what they're providing. But it can be all worked, and they work with you in that program if they want to.
So what other types of works do you offer in your healing work?
I do life coaching and soul coaching. So some people do want spiritual development. They want they have abilities, or they have fear around their abilities, or they're going through an awakening process and they need someone to kind of clear up what's going on. I'll sit with them, give them tools, give them homework throughout the week, and then they check in. Along with that, I do law of attraction coaching and learning how law of attraction works and what they can do daily, morning, noon, and night, on how to attract things and how to stay in the resonance of attracting what they want. Because it's easy to say, God, I really want that car. It's another thing to like stay in a high resonant space that's going to allow that to come.
They think they want it, but they might want it for 2 seconds, and then they think of all the reasons why they don't deserve it or can't have it.
Right.
And then that's what
they're like, and then they're not on that space where they're attracting it. So I help people, just through, and this is all through personal experience. I wouldn't be teaching anything that I haven't had my own experience with. Right. And so I want people to do what I do. I want people to experience their own gifts, and everybody has their magic powers, their gifts, their abilities. It's about what did you come in with in order to provide that to the world, to the universe. I'm finding what those things are with people, and then I'm going, focus on that, and the rest will unfold after that. So along with that, I also will sit with somebody, and a lot of people do energy clearing in different ways. I can do energy clearing with sitting with somebody and they don't actually know what's happening, but every part of the experience that they walk into my space with, it's already begun. I basically vibrationally tune them up. I clear out the things. I'm clearing it from their field, and then I'm just listening, and I'm making sure their eyes are in the right direction. And then I keep them in that way to transcend those lower vibrations or frequencies. So that's a lot of the work that I do. The past life regression, when people buy a package with me for the soul coaching or spiritual development, they get a past life regression with it because it's just such a transformative experience. So I kind of do different things to combine it. And some people want more body coaching, so my personal training experience. And if people want that, I will incorporate that. But you must still want the spiritual development, as there can be no result with the physical without a result with the non-physical.
Right. I mean, the physical, as we know, it's a manifestation of the non-physical. So whatever shows up in the physical that's not healing or not working, it's because of some energetic predisposition going on.
Yes.
Whether it's thought pattern or past life pattern or whatever. So, well, that's That's amazing. I'm really excited to hear about your work and appreciate you coming on to talk about it. How can people get more information about you or find you or connect with you?
My website's really easy. It's wonderfullightbody.com. Just exactly how you spell it, wonderfullightbody.com, and has all the services, more information, testimonials, video tips, stuff like that. So I'm easily accessible.
Well, I really appreciate that. And two, one thing that is a really important part of the show is I like to provide people with a transformational tool for daily living. Like that's sort of the mantra of the show, right? So for people watching or listening right now, if there was one thing that they could do right now in their day to expand their experience, what would you suggest that they do?
Trust themselves. Because the majority of people don't. They get a feeling that they want to do something that brings them joy or happiness. I just got to wave down my body. They want to follow something. They're like, that's going to make me happy, but they don't trust it because of all these other programs that they keep running. And if people were to just start beginning to trust themselves, and where does trust go? That root chakra. And that grounding, right?
Yeah, the foundation.
Right. So if people could just begin to say, you know what? I am trusting myself more than I've ever trusted myself right now and today. And every day that follows, I will trust myself more. They'll begin that process of the Kundalini awakening, the sense of stability, the sense of like, I can follow the impulses and the breadcrumbs that are there for me if I can trust myself. So really, it honestly comes down to that.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's beautiful. And what we also can understand is that, we learn through growth, and growth can be uncomfortable. So when we sit in our comfort zone, we're not growing, we're not learning. It's actually learning to trust yourself might not be easy right away, but taking that one step, as you say, and then saying, oh, I do trust myself, even if it's just a desire to do it, to say, I want to trust myself. That will create experiences that will show up in your day of opportunities to do just that. And then when you do that, you'll realize that you can, and then you'll up the game. You'll go to the next level. So thank you for that incredible wisdom. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much. And that's been it for the Divine Insight Show.